welcome to the BullCast podcast. I'm Katie Pickler, and with me today is Court Winsett.
Hello, Katie.
And Cameron Spann.
Hello, hello.
Fraud. That sends so many emotions, fraud.
Never good. I've not ever been introduced to a single scenario in which the fraud was good.
No. Those that are committing the fraud, maybe feel good, but they should always have that worry of when are they going to get caught.
I mean, I would certainly never feel good if I was committing fraud. I would have all kinds of emotions of guilt and
you
anxiety.
should.
Yeah,
you should as a normal human being, but most of the time, these people are not thinking that way at all. They're very self-serving.
They're not good people.
Not good people. So we have definitely done some episodes. I remember when we actually had your brother on, we talked about white collar crimes. Yeah. We talked about things like that. But then one of the things when people are talking about the stock market, talking about investing, I mean, there's tons of movies about it, but it's talking about big frauds and what we learn from those big frauds and how not to repeat or how to be very cautious when moving forward. So this episode, we're going to specifically talk about the biggest investment frauds in history. Unfortunately, there has been a ton of different frauds out there. And the biggest thing is, what do we say? We got to learn from history or else history will repeat itself. So we need to learn from these frauds and make sure that we are more aware, especially in this dawn of AI, that everything is getting smarter and smarter. It is more important to question. And I would much rather have a client or somebody call me and say, this looks a little suspicious, or this sounds too good to be true. Is it? And us have a conversation. So some investment frauds have become headlines, making scandals that shocked the world. Others sounded almost unbelievable in hindsight. Yeah, but people still believe it. But behind every fraud story were real people who lost savings, retirements, businesses, trust, kids' education accounts, everything known to man. Today, we're looking at some of the history's biggest and most famous investment frauds. But before we dive into the real world cases, let's start with our list, our pop culture list of the greatest con artist and scam stories in movie and TV.
Now, these are feel good, but this is con artists and so forth. It's long con, so forth. Plus, I think you tend to give people who are robbing casinos and stuff like that in movies a pass that you wouldn't necessarily give them in real life.
Yeah.
Because these are just characters. So starting with number one on the list, The Sting. This is the granddaddy of all con man movies. It's set in Depression-era Chicago. It revolves around a hustler named Johnny Hooker, who's played by Robert Redford, who is determined to avenge a friend's murder by swindling the crime boss who ordered the killing. Hooker enlists the help of a veteran con man, Henry Gondorff, played by Paul Newman, a character clearly modeled on the real-life swindling Chicago brothers, Fred and Charlie Gondorff. Okay, they hit it a little bit on the nose with that last name there. Okay, this is a classic. If you haven't seen it...
Two superstars, Redford and Newman.
Yeah. Great, for sure.
And of course, they reteamed in at least one other great movie. They are great together. They act well off each other. And this was when they were both really pretty young, so early in their careers, but great movie.
Next one I know we've talked about recently, the Catch Me If You Can. It's a movie, it's a play. I think it was a book. As Leonardo DiCaprio stars as Frank Abagnale Jr. Sorry, Frank. Can't say your last name because you had so many last names. You had many names. You were a real life con artist who successfully posed as a pilot, a doctor, a lawyer, so many different things. He was very suave. He manipulated women, manipulated everybody possible while cashing millions in fraudulent checks, all while being chased by an FBI agent played by Tom Hanks.
Played by Tom Hanks. Is there anything that man can't do?
It was a very interesting movie. And yes, Katie, it was a semi-autobiographical book written in 1980 by Frank Abagnale.
Abagnale, okay, perfect. Very good. So it's a fraud of multiple people.
Yes.
Next on the list is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I have not seen this. I've heard of it.
It's a classic.
This is, I think, the only one I haven't seen on the list. Steve Martin and Michael Caine.
So good.
Are con men competing for marks on the French Riviera. They make a bet. The first one to relieve a visiting American heiress, played by Glenn Headley, of $50,000 wins, and the loser leaves town.
Basically, Michael Caine plays this very refined. He's got a con game that
he's in the Riviera.
in the Riviera, he's been doing this for years and years. And Steve Martin is an American who shows up, and Michael Caine's like, "Look, you got to leave. You're ruining my vibe. You're gonna absolutely cause trouble for me that I don't need because you're so bad at this." And
when the con men hate the other con men, and they're like, "You're messing up my game."
But classic movie, it's great. Next on the list is American Hustle. Inspired by the FBI's abscam operation, this film follows con artists Irving Rosenfeld and Sidney Prosser as they become entangled in a dangerous world of political corruption and deception. Now, I haven't actually seen this one, but
You haven't seen American Hustle?
I haven't seen American
great.
Hustle. Now, this is the one that has like
Amy Adams and Jennifer Lawrence.
And then the guys are Bradley Cooper and that other guy.
Yeah. I saw it in theaters. I don't remember too much about it other than it being super 70s.
70s, lots of fun. I remember the costuming. So they did a good job with the costuming. Okay, the next one is Oceans 11, 12, 13. All of them. All the Oceans. Danny Ocean, a crook with class, assembles a dream team of fellow fraudsters with skill sets ranging from disguise to computer hacking to pulling off to appear the most impossible heist possible. Impossible heists that are possible in their world. It's fantastic. Obviously, they all are, crooks in their own way, but they're good guys. You're lovable. You love them, and you're rooting for them.
Yeah, you definitely do root for this crew, especially because the guy whose casino they're knocking off is a jerk.
He's a jerk, yeah.
And you're like, oh, he's a jerk.
Have you seen the trilogy plus the other one?
Yes, I've
Trilogy
seen all
and then
of
the female
Ocean.
one. Yep, I've seen all
of the Ocean movies.
The quadrilogy.
And I can't wait for the prequel that's coming out.
Oh, about Danny Ocean?
It's about his parents.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Fun.
I cannot remember who is cast in it, but it is going to be a great cast. So
I just love that Brad Pitt's always eating.
Yeah.
All the time. And all this, that's his little shtick, is he is always eating something. Before we get to the last one, there's a couple that popped in my, obviously there's a ton of fraud movies out there. But when we were talking about the Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, then I immediately thought of not a very great movie, but there was a movie called, I think, The Heartbreakers. It was Renee Russo and Jennifer Love Hewitt, and they're, going after older.
I think it was not Renee Russo. I think it was, Susan Sarandon, wasn't it? Am I completely off on that?
And then you had the Will Smith and Margot Robbie movie where they were definitely...
Yeah, I've seen clips from that. I don't know that I've ever seen the whole movie, but I have seen clips.
Focus. It was good. I liked it because it had twist within twist, and then it was, I think Will Smith's dad was a part of it where you didn't realize that he was also a con man and where he learned everything from, but he had been in the story the whole time, and you never knew that he was his dad or something crazy like that. But those are always fun. They're keeping it in the family, the fraud.
And I like the Now You See Me trilogy as well.
Those are good.
Yeah, those are fun.
Speaking of Margot Robbie, who you just mentioned, she is starring in the Oceans prequel.
That's what it is.
And it focuses on Danny Ocean's parents as they pull off an epic heist during the 1962 Monaco Grand Prix.
Yes.
Her
Margot
and Bradley
Robbie
Cooper.
Yeah. See, I told you it was a good cast.
It's so good.
Yeah.
But wrapping up the list, I don't know if you've seen this. It is highly entertaining. Matchstick Men, starring Nicolas Cage. Have you guys seen it?
I have not.
Oh, man. So he plays a con artist with severe anxiety and OCD, and I want to say Tourette's. Remember how he just explodes random crazy sayings. It's amazing.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage was very ooh, in this movie.
Whose carefully controlled life begins unraveling after reconnecting with his teenage daughter.
Because she starts messing up his life, his routine, his heist, all of that.
It's worth a watch.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay.
There's lots that I'm sure we're forgetting.
Oh, yeah. We actually have to get to the real
actual part of the episode.
The meat and potatoes?
Yeah. So, Court, what is investment fraud?
Like most other frauds, investment fraud happens when someone lies or manipulates or deceives people into investing money under false promises or false pretenses or false...
Just being false.
Yeah. Just scams that often promise, high return with little risk. Just give me $100,000 and I'll double your money. And a lot of times they'll involve you give them a smaller investment and they'll show you that you can get the returns and then try and hit you up for a bigger investment the next time. And eventually they've got all your money and then they just stop responding to you.
I think of Wolf of Wall Street. When you say fraud, I just had to Google
Wolf
it. Just
of
to
Wall
make
Street and then...
The penny stocks, wasn't that kind of what it was based on? He started selling penny stocks and then massive fraud.
Yeah, that's manipulating people and scheming. It was legitimate penny stocks that he had, but he was scheming and...
Pump and dump and IPO manipulation. That's what it says.
And I mean, you've got the Millionaires Club, the $1 Million, the boys. What was that?
The Millionaire Boys Club, or was it
Maybe
the Billionaire Boys Club? I can't remember, but it was... Are you talking about the one from decades ago that had Judd Nelson in it?
Maybe.
That's the one I remember.
Billionaire Boys Club. That was one in 2018.
Okay, the one I'm thinking of was way longer ago than that.
Yeah, there is tons. The Big Short, Rogue Trader. Like, we talked about a ton of these because clearly they've made movies about these so people can be educated and learn a little bit more about fraud.
Yeah.
As you were talking about, the investment fraud is obviously lies, manipulation, deceiving people, getting people to buy in. A lot of times people say that these pyramid schemes, which you may be like, have you bought Herbalife? If you bought some of this stuff, then are people misleading you? Oh, you can make this money, you can make returns, and they're legitimate where it's fraud, and there is definitely where people make it sound better than it is. That is why, as investment advisors, we have very strict compliance on us on what we can and can't do. Even documentation, if we were to give somebody a sheet that shows a fact sheet on the return on an investment, we can't highlight, we can't circle, we can't do anything to then draw your attention to it. You have to give it as it is published. That's what you've got to do. Ponzi schemes. I think a lot of people, and I know we've done an episode about this, but a lot of people hear, oh, a Ponzi scheme. But do you know what it is? You know what it is.
Idea, sure.
Cam?
I'm reading it right now because I didn't quite know the definition.
So a Ponzi scheme uses money from new investors to pay earlier investors, creating the illusion of profits. And the scam depends on constantly bringing in new investors. So where the name Ponzi comes from. Ponzi scheme gets its name from a swindler named Charles Ponzi, who in 1920 became a millionaire by promoting a non-existent investment opportunity. He promised clients a 50% profit 45 days through international postal coupon arbitrage. It defrauded investors of approximately $20 million. So he has created something.
$20 million back in 1920. That was a lot of money.
He created something and said, hey, you should invest in this. And people did it.
But it was fake.
It was fake. But think about it, it's all about presentation. And we go back to, the Catch Me If You Can and how good old Frank was manipulating people into, hey, trust me.
Oh, yeah. Trust me.
Yeah, I tend to rope in like Ponzi scheme, pyramid scheme, MLM all together. I know we're going to break them down later in the episode, but I am curious. I think they share kind of the same premise, kind of the trickle down. I want to know the true definitions, which we will get into in a minute.
Yeah, I was going to say Ponzi scheme is, with this particular situation where the name Ponzi came from, there was nothing. He just created an illusion of something versus pyramid scheme, the MLMs.
Multi-level marketing.
Thank you. Those are real. There is somebody who is making money, but the only way you make money is, okay, I'm a great salesman. Now I'm going to bring somebody else on to sell. So then I'm getting their profits. So there still is some legitimacy to it because it's a product, it's selling, it's doing things like that. But the more people that get involved, the smaller it's getting.
Yeah.
And the returns are not going to be the same.
Yeah. You only get really good returns if you are high up on that pyramid kind of early on, right? The more people are under you, feeding you income.
So the idea behind the Ponzi scheme is if you get some investors in and you get them to invest their money with the promise of good returns, high returns, whatever, and then you get more people to invest based on, first of all, you're using your initial investors as advocates for you to find new investors, oh yeah, this guy's doing great for me, my money's building up. And you bring in more investors. Their money you take and you can use it to get the original investors their investment back. And it makes it seem like they've earned some money. And so they become even bigger advocates for you. And you bring in more people. And you're always skimming. You're always skimming some of the money, but
you're in trouble if then you think back to George Bailey and if you have a run on the bank, if you have the run on your investors and everybody's now calling in saying, I can't invest anymore, I'm done.
If everybody called and said at once, we all need our money back, that's when you disappear.
Yeah, that's when they're gone off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And then you're calling and crying to somebody saying, hey, I need this money. And they're saying that never was a legitimate investment.
So let's give a specific example.
Yeah.
Because Bernie Madoff is probably a name that everybody recognizes. He's probably the biggest Ponzi scheme ever. In 2008, he was convicted of running a Ponzi scheme that falsified trading reports to show his clients were earning profits on investments that did not exist.
Yikes.
Madoff promoted his Ponzi scheme as an investment strategy called the split strike conversion that traded in blue chip stocks and options. Now, During the 2008 financial crisis, investors began withdrawing funds. The scheme unraveled because the money wasn't there.
It's what we were just talking about. They were calling for it. They needed it.
Madoff did not disappear. He eventually admitted that his firm had $50 billion of liabilities owed to 4,800 clients. However, the government determined the real size of the fraud to be $64.8 billion. He was sentenced to 150 years in prison and forfeiture of the $170 billion in assets. Thousands of people lost their retirement savings, their homes, their life savings. I'm pretty sure it was ripped from the headlines story on Law and Order that I saw just recently.
150 years in prison is diabolical.
Yeah, he's going to die in prison. His wife also got, I can't remember what happened to her, but I remember reading something that like basically her life was over. Even though she technically wasn't involved in the Ponzi scheme, they were like, yeah, you had to know something was up.
It's association. Like he ruined not only the 4,800 clients, he ruined his family, his life. Anybody who has that last name, they are forever associated with him.
Yeah.
It's a ripple effect. It's going to hinder for sure.
Let me run through these Ponzi scheme red flags, aka SEC warning signs. That is SEC. What does that stand for?
Securities Exchange Commission.
There it is. Yeah. 1, a guaranteed promise of high returns with little risk. Yeah, when it's too good to be true.
Yeah, it probably is.
Number 2, a consistent flow of returns regardless of market conditions.
Nope.
Because that's not how it works. 3, investments are not registered with the SEC.
Boom, big one.
Sellers are not licensed to sell investment products.
Yeah, ask those questions. Quit listening to TikTok.
Investment strategies that are secret or described as too complex to explain.
Nope.
Failure to provide clients with documentation for their investment. That's a big ol' yikes.
Yep.
And lastly, difficulties withdrawing money.
Yeah, I mean, these are all things that we teach everybody about. And when you were talking about Madoff and what happened, this is why there's regulations on documentation and reports that we are able to give our clients. Has to be approved, has to be properly vetted so that I can't sit there and manipulate and say, oh, yeah, I know it was a bad month last month, but actually, like, if we just skip last month and go back to the previous month, this is what you actually did. No, we have to be transparent. We have to be honest. And you want somebody to be that way. And when you're looking at absolutely, anybody can check and find out through brokerdealer.com or .org. I can't remember which one it is. You can
Broker check.
The
sorry. FINRA site?
Yes, broker check on FINRA. You can check out the person you're working with. It'll show you their licensing, who they've worked with, their history, if they have any complaints on them. It is essentially a directory for you to see these financial professionals. And if they're not on there, that should be a red flag for you.
Yep.
And then investment strategies that are secret. Yes, they could be complicated, but they should be able to give you fact sheets. They should be able to give you documentation that shows you what are you investing in, what is it, and the difficulty withdrawing money. There are absolutely securities out there that have times that you can't withdraw from. You're locking in. If you're doing like a real estate investment trust, you're doing certain things like that. You may be locking your money up, but there is lots and lots of information that has to go on the front end. You have to make sure you're an appropriate investor to even be doing that. So if you're doing something and they're saying, oh, well, you can't really get access to your money, you need to make sure you've done a whole bunch of due diligence on the front end to understand why and that this is a legitimate concern and not just, oh, grandma's giving $50 towards this and this is her life savings and now her $50 is gone.
Okay, so securities fraud, which I guess we're saying is a little bit different than investment fraud because securities fraud involves deceptive practices in buying and selling securities, such as insider trading, which we've all heard of, market manipulation, and falsifying financial statements. So what we have as an example for this is the Enron scandal. Established in the mid-'80s, former dot-com juggernaut Enron made a fortune trading natural gas and other commodities. In 1999, the company launched its own digital commodity trading platform. At the height of its success, Enron shares reached a high of $90 per share. Through unethical accounting practices, Enron was able to keep hundreds of millions worth of debt off its books. Unethical accounting practices. Not creative, unethical, bad. These involved shell companies owned by Enron executives that recorded fake revenues. So Enron admitted it overstated profits by almost $600 million. The company's stock plummeted to less than $1 per share. It then laid off around 4,000 employees, many of whom had seen their life savings completely go away because they were in, as a topic that we have probably touched on before, but they had made the bad mistake of having all of their retirement funds tied up in what? Enron stock.
Mm-hmm.
And so when Enron stock fell so precipitously, all of their investments were gone. They collapsed, that day being Enron, collapsed into bankruptcy in 2001. So that's a good one.
Did y'all ever see the film Fun with Dick and Jane?
Yes, I
So
did,
good.
for sure.
It's not specifically about Enron. The fake company is Globodyne, but it's Enron.
It's Enron. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what Enron is a name, like Madoff, Enron. Those are names that you can say, and everyone's like, oh, okay. Yeah. But again, it's kind of jargony because I think a lot of times we've gotten desensitized to the fact that we'll say, oh, well, you don't have a Madoff situation or an Enron situation. Everyone's like, yeah. But a lot of times people could not tell you specifically what happened. What's the next scandal?
Okay. WorldCom. Do y'all remember WorldCom?
I do not remember WorldCom.
Well, it collapsed back in 2002. So it was the second largest U.S. long-distance phone company. When it collapsed due to an $11 billion accounting fraud. So a lot of times it's those creative accounting numbers that end up getting you screwed.
Cooking the book.
Executives falsified entries to inflate profits and hide losses, leading to a major bankruptcy. The scandal contributed to the passage of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which strengthened corporate accountability and financial reporting requirements. Estimated losses were $175 billion. That'd be $306 billion in today's dollars because of inflation. So, personal story, my daughter was given some stock by relatives when she was born, basically. She was like 2 or 3 years old. And at a certain point, I decided, because it was all stock, the stock was Abbott Laboratories, but it was all in Abbott. And so I decided that we needed to diversify it. And so I diversified it. And some of the stuff that I diversified it into was stuff that just got absolutely killed during the .com bubble burst, which was right around the same time as the WorldCom scandal. So that kind of hurt.
I bet.
Yeah.
Should we roll through quickly the other types of fraud?
Sure.
Pyramid schemes. There it is. So participants make money primarily by recruiting others instead of selling legitimate products or investments. That pyramid shape, you want people under you to give you money.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, you can see them coming, and especially, I feel like my feed has died down a good bit. Maybe they've died down as a whole a good bit, but when you start getting those friend requests and stuff like that, and it's like, why are you messaging me? Now I think the ones that are still lingering are always weight loss ones. Those are always a huge one. Sell this product, and then on the female side, then I'll see like makeup or skincare, things like that.
Remember LuLaRoe?
Yeah.
Yep, that was a famous pyramid scheme. It was like a legging company.
I bought a lot of LuLaRoe, and that's what I remember being asked if I wanted. Oh, you're buying so much. Do you want to start selling? And I'm like, no.
I don't remember LuLaRoe. I remember Lululemon.
Well, Lululemon's a legitimate company that's still around. LuLaRoe was those leggings that were like your family would, your girls would know. It's like buttery soft, and they had like kind of crazy designs. One of our current clients, she used to sell it.
The fallout, many distributors were left with tens of thousands of dollars in unsold damaged inventory and went bankrupt. In 2019, the company settled a lawsuit with the state of Washington for $4.75 million over allegations of operating as a pyramid scheme. Yikes.
Everybody was selling it.
Okay, pump and dump. Pump and dump schemes, fraudsters.
Hey, that's a new mommy right there. Hey.
Not, ladies and gentlemen, not that pump and dump.
Okay, basically people artificially inflate investment prices through hype and misleading information, buy up a ton of the stock. Once the prices rise, insiders will sell everything off all at once. They make their bank, and then the stock price will crash, leaving the other people holding the rather empty bag. So this is an example of the Wolf of Wall Street and Jordan Belfort's penny stock schemes. He would pump and dump all them puppies.
The pump and dump is definitely, we talked about how the markets really worked and how it was kind of meeting around a tree at the very beginning. But you can think of these aristocrat gentlemen sitting in their parlors with their smoking clubs, and they're all drinking. And there's a man walking around the room really hyping up different things or trying to manipulate things. So this has been going on for a while. That is why, if you look at the history of the investment industry, all these different regulations have come from certain situations that happen. It's like, oh, no, we can't do that. Slap a regulation on there, slap a rule, slap this, slap that, because it was very playing towards those that can help many. But think about politics. And what do? You go around and, hey, have you heard about my man Court? You should vote for Court. This is why. So that nature of people pitching and selling things has been around for forever. We just now make sure that when we're talking about investing, you're not doing that just to get your own gain.
Yeah. Next type of fraud type thing that I'm going to just mention because it's not on our list, but it is something that I think most people remember is the mortgage-backed security bust that happened around 2008 that was a major contributor to the failing of massive financial institutions, and the housing market went to hell in a handbasket and stock market took a beating. Basically, the idea behind that one was, and I'm really, really simplifying this, so, forgive me if I leave out some major complex details, but basically companies started going out and financing 100% of the equity in a house, or even more than 100% of the equity in a house, and getting people to take out loans to buy these houses to live the American dream, because the housing market was shooting up so fast that your equity would grow to match or even exceed the amount of money that you had taken out in a loan so fast that people didn't have to worry about the fact that they were upside down when they started. It just grew that fast. Problem is, they were making these loans to people who financially really couldn't make the payments and so forth. Then they would bundle them together all into a bundle of mortgages, and people would invest in these, basically foreseeing getting a stream of revenue back from, they put their money to buy a share of this mortgage-backed security, and their stream of revenue will be the payments on those mortgages when people make their payments. On top of that, they had, even though they had these really questionable loans that were being made to start with, then they were packaging them together and getting Moody's and companies that give debt ratings, AAA bond, those companies were rating them very high, these mortgage-backed securities very high. So they looked legitimate. And then everything went to hell in a handbasket because people couldn't pay their mortgages. The housing market started going heels up, I guess. And all of a sudden that rapid increase in equity that everybody was counting on to cover these ridiculous loans that people had taken out was just gone. A whole bunch of people ended up losing their homes.
Yeah, it was an absolute mess.
Yeah, it was a terrible mess. So that one was fun.
So crypto and digital asset fraud.
Although I want to point out, on the outline, it's spelled SERPTO.
Yep, SERPTO.
SERPTO. So fraud involving cryptocurrencies and digital assets often spread quickly because of online hype, celebrity endorsements, FOMO, fear of missing out, and limited regulations. Y'all have heard me talk about this before. It is the Wild West. Think about there's different things out there. And if there are not regulations, if it is not a licensed person that is selling you things, then you really need to ask some questions. And so the FTX scam. Cryptocurrency exchange FTX declared bankruptcy in November of 2022 due to fraudulent mismanagement of customer funds. Billions were unaccounted for. Unauthorized transactions occurred during its collapse. Investigations showed an inflated balance sheet with illiquid tokens, leading to the founder, Sam Bankman-Fried's conviction for directing fraudulent activity.
Yeah, and basically his excuse was he didn't know he couldn't borrow money from over here to use it for his stuff that he wanted to use it for over here.
Except when you're in, the side that actually has rules and follows it, then that's a rule. You cannot borrow from your client's funds.
Right. Yeah.
But for some reason, in the crypto world, they're like, oh, well, we don't follow those rules. We're different. We can have better returns. We can do this. Yeah, but you're not playing by the rules. You should ask yourself, they're able to do some of that, but them not following the rules, how does that happen? And rules are in place for a reason. Rules are important, and they're to protect you.
Yes, but the sad reality is not everybody follows them. And when somebody breaks the rules, behind every fraud statistic, there are real people. These scams are not just financial stories, they're human stories. People, like I said, people losing their houses, people losing their retirement funds, basically left bankrupt, insolvent, maybe out on the street. It can really tear up a home.
And some of them, as you mentioned, with the housing market, how places like Moody, they looked legitimate. They were able to back behind it. Fraud is continuing to get better and better. Think about now how just the emails you get and where they're stealing your credit card from. And I remember the gas pump scenario that has been around for forever, but I still, every time I go to a gas pump, you kind of like check to make sure, like, is it got
wiggle it? Yeah.
Wiggle it to see, like, is it a portable thing where they're going to, but they're not doing that anymore. The fraudsters are like, that's old school stuff. We don't do that anymore.
I almost prefer never to stick my card in a slot ever again. If I can avoid it, I use tap to pay because I don't trust those slots further than I can throw them.
So the biggest victim of frauds are often ordinary people trying to do the right thing for their future. It's definitely preyed on the easily manipulated, those in desperate times, those that have just come into money and really need some direction. Celebrities, we talked about that before, that especially like athletes or celebrities, people who have just come into fame and maybe don't have the correct education or the right people in their pocket, they can easily get manipulated.
Oh, sure.
And just be leery, be cautious. And the people you are working with that are trying to advise you, they may get frustrated if you have to keep continuing to give more documentation or tell them more things, but that's what you need to do. You need to make sure you're doing the right thing. And if somebody wants to work with you and make sure they're looking out for you, they're going to provide you with all the peace of mind that you need.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, there's the closing bell. You've made it to the end of yet another episode of the BullCast podcast. If you liked what you heard and you'd like to hear more, please feel free to go to your favorite subscription service and sign up to have our podcast delivered directly to your device every single Thursday at noon. If you'd like to find out more about Cortland, Katie, Cameron, or Nicole, please feel free to go to our website. That website is bullcastpodcast.com. We've got pictures up there, we've got our bios, and we've got a place where you can drop a comment or suggest a topic you'd like to hear us talk more about. But I mentioned pictures. We do have pictures. We have pictures on Instagram. We have a handle. That handle is at BullCast Podcast. We also have an X handle, which is also at BullCast Podcast. And rounding out the social media, we have a Facebook page, which is BullCast the Podcast. So feel free to interact with us there as well. But here is the time, ladies and gentlemen. Every single episode, I like to remind you that Katie, Cameron, Nicole, and I all work at a place called Pickler Wealth Advisors. And if you'd like to find out even more information about us, find out about what we do, find out about what we could potentially do for you, find out about our amazing team, or find out about our boss, David Pickler, please feel free to go to that website. That website is picklerwealthadvisors.com.
That's advisors with an O.
Not an E.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've given you everything you need to go out there and be careful. Make sure you don't get tricked and find those fraudsters and put them in jail. So for now, I'm Court.
I'm Katie.
I'm Cam.
And we done.